Hello guys, it is me again, it's HorrorFan34, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to another challenge response video. This is to the Thrill Me Thursdays challenge that's done by Hey Isn't That Devon Graham. And for this week's Thursday challenge, it's going to be on your top 5 favorite horror alternate endings to movies. Which I thought was a pretty interesting list. Now, I know this was a really tough list to make, because sometimes there's a lot of alternate endings to horror films that don't really work, and they kind of kill the movie and things like that. Like for some reason, like for example, like the Elm Street, the original ending for Elm Street, or the alternate ending for Blair Witch Project, or things like that. Wasn't too big on those, but these are the 5 that I found the most interesting and really pretty interesting alternate endings that are probably my favorite ones. So, let's get on to the list. Number 5 has to go to The Shining. Now, the original ending for The Shining, instead of, Jack Torrance, you see Jack in the hedge maze and he gets frozen in the hedge maze, and then that long view shot of the hallway and the big picture of all these people back in the 20s at the Overlook Hotel, and Jack is like dead center in the middle. The alternate ending is where Wendy and Danny are in the hospital recovering from the incident, and Ullman, who was I think the manager of the hotel you see in the very beginning, talking to them about it and things like that, and then he gives like this tennis ball to Danny, which was one of the things that lured Danny to room 237, and you kind of get the idea that Danny was involved in the whole thing. And I thought it was kind of an interesting twist, alternate ending, but in a way, like I think that's a pretty dark alternate ending, but I like the way it ends better in the theatrical version. But I still found this alternate ending very interesting to see, or to even look up on. Number 4, this was on Hey Isn't That Devon Graham's list, The Descent. The Descent, this is a really great horror film. I think Rob actually mentioned this when we did the live stream for Halloween. I believe he mentioned this. Yeah, I believe he did, on his top 5. I think The Descent was his number 5, and he talked about that movie. It's a really great movie by Neil Marshall. Really claustrophobic, and about these creatures in this cave, and a bunch of these women are trapped down there, and really creepy idea where these creatures can like sense stuff and things like that. It's really cool concept. The whole ending with her, getting out and escaping and getting in her car and things like that. The alternate ending is where she gets in her car and she sees a zombie in there, and she screams and she wakes up and she's still trapped in the cave. I do like the way it ends in the theatrical version, but this alternate ending was really dark. It was really interesting to see, so I'll give credit for that. But so that down my number 4. Number 3, this alternate ending I thought was far better than the theatrical ending for this movie. There was three separate alternate endings for the movie, but the one always stood out to me for this movie. Number 3 is Joyride. Joyride is one of those underrated horror films from the early 2000s, I believe from 2001. It's my favorite film with Paul Walker. May he rest in peace, miss Paul Walker. Now, of course, in the theatrical ending, Rusty Nails survives, and that's why they make Joyride 2 and 3, which I'm not a fan of, but, I really do wish, though, that this Joyride was never a franchise and never needed a franchise. That's why I like the alternate ending better, where it's like a completely different third act, where they actually do take out Rusty Nail, and it doesn't leave for a sequel-made ending, which I like. And I like that alternate ending far better in the theatrical version, where Rusty Nails calls them at the very end and says that he's still alive, and that's why they made Joyride 2 and 3, which I'm not a fan of. But the alternate ending for Joyride is far better, in my opinion. Number 2, I actually have right here. I actually have it right here. I Am Legend. I Am Legend, I'm a fan of the other ending where Will Smith actually lives. Never was really a fan of the ending where he dies. I like the one where he lives at the end, which I like because I like Will Smith. Now, the one thing with this movie, though, I will admit, I was never too big on the CGI effects of like the creatures. I was never really the biggest fan of the look, the way they looked. I kind of wish they would have used practical effects for the creatures. And another thing too about this movie too is, I know this film way back in like the '90s, because remember this is like the third remake of or technically the second remake of The Last Man on Earth, because it was like those kind of like movies. You had The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, which I believe was in the '50s, the late '50s or the early '60s. I think it might have been the '60s. I believe I could be wrong though. And of course, Omega Man with Charlton Heston was the first remake of The Last Man on Earth, and this was the second remake of that story. Now, I know originally, and actually by Francis Lawrence, I think this is the same guy that went on to do The Hunger Games, I believe. I believe that's the same guy. But I know originally back in like the '90s, Ridley Scott was going to do this with Arnold, which would have been really cool. I mean, imagine Ridley Scott around that time and Arnold doing it in the '90s. You figure Arnold around that time with True Lies and Total Recall and Kindergarten Cop, and I mean, Arnold had a really solid, round of movies in the '90s. So that would have been really, really cool to see that back in the '90s. But still, really enjoy this film. I like Will Smith. Had a really great production value. It's really, really a great looking movie. Things like that. Really do enjoy I Am Legend. And the number one alternate ending for me was also one, hey, isn't that Devon Graham's list? And I believe it was his number one, Child's Play 2. Love the alternate ending for Child's Play 2. I really do wish one day that this gets a special edition, DVD or Blu-ray, because maybe one day Shout Factory, Scream Factory would do it one day. I don't know, though, because I know the first one got one from Scream Factory. I really do wish that this would get like a special edition one day, because I know the alternate ending was on Made for TV on the USA Network, which kind of leads into the beginning of Child's Play 3, which I thought was cool. I thought that's a really cool alternate ending for Child's Play 2. I thought that's a really cool way to end the movie. Child's Play 2 overall is a great sequel. I love the whole toy factory setting and things like that. But like I said, it'd be really cool though to see features on this, interviews with Alex Vincent or Garrett Graham, the director, the writers. I forget the actor's name, but who played the babysitter of Andy in the second movie. Interview with Brad Dourif. I mean, you can interview a lot of people for Child's Play 2. So that's my list for you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks a lot for watching. I will see you guys next time. You guys take care.